You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Joining us live from SEC Media Days today is from that SEC podcast, SEC Mike. How's it going, Mike? Thank you for joining us. What are you making of the Oklahoma Sooners as we get ready for the 2025 season?
Well, I think Oklahoma's in a unique spot, right? Because expectations are raised once again, as they should be, with the offensive overall, bringing in a quarterback. But honestly, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword for Brent Venables.
True.
Because, again, I've had a lot of people ask me, is 7-5, is that good enough for Brent Venables at Oklahoma? It shouldn't be. But maybe with this schedule, I don't know. That's fascinating to me. But because the expectations have been raised, as they should have been, with all the upgrades, they falter early. I think the whole thing could cave. Now, that being said, I think Oklahoma's going to win 9 or 10 games this year, so I don't think it's going to happen. But them and Florida, I think, are the two teams that are the most intriguing in the SEC this year to me.
Yeah, you've been high on Oklahoma on that SEC podcast, and it's funny seeing you and Cousin Shane kind of go back and forth on it. But you have been very bullish on thinking Oklahoma can hit 9, possibly 10, 8 to 10 wins. We'll just say it that way. What about the team makes you feel like they have the opportunity to actually get close to achieving that number?
Well, I mean, I think if they just had a competent offense last year, they could have gotten there, you know? And we sit here all off season. We got to talk about something, right? So we talk about the schedule. And, yeah, the schedule looks daunting. But I can't tell you how many times we've looked at a schedule and it looks daunting. And then all of a sudden, maybe it's not.
Right.
You know, Michigan, I don't have any faith really in that in that head coach. I don't have faith that a true freshman to go to Norman in the second week of the season. I really don't have faith in Chip Lindsey, the offensive coordinator. I think that's going to be a disastrous hire for Michigan. So I don't think Michigan's that big of a threat. Auburn, I think, is a joke. I think they're going to implode. So all of a sudden, you know, these are critical games. I think Oklahoma can cruise, both at home, go into Red River undefeated. Now, who knows? College game day could be there. That could be the best game of the season in college football. I mean, I think that's remotely possible.
It seems like, including Oklahoma, just the SEC seems very wide open. You know, Kirby Smart, Georgia, they're one of those teams that you're always going to have at the top just because of the consistency. But outside of that, it feels really wide open this year.
Yeah, it certainly does. And who wins in the SEC? Teams that are strong on the line of scrimmage. And I don't think there's a team that's stronger than Oklahoma on the defensive line. Now, offensive line, maybe not. But, you know, that was a huge issue last year. Did they get that resolved? Whether they did or not, I think that's going to dictate how successful the Sooners are this year.
Outside of Oklahoma, when it comes to the schedule, what team on there do you feel like poses Oklahoma the biggest trouble this coming season?
I mean, it's always Texas, isn't it?
Typically, yeah.
Especially
That's
way
the Sunday school answer right there.
Outside of the Red River, though.
Yeah, 2 of the 3. I mean, just so lopsided. So that's certainly one. I'll give you another one. And Oklahoma fans, I don't think they're even afraid of this team after the way they beat them last year. But I think it's Alabama, because I'm picking Alabama to win the SEC. That game's at Alabama. That's a tough place to play. I think it's a little bit overrated as a home field. I was telling people last year, Jordan Hare, that's super overrated. Mm-hmm. And I think you guys found out. I mean, it's a fine home field, as is Alabama, but that's got more to do with their players than it does their environment. So I'm not saying the Sooners can't win there, but if I'm telling you that Alabama's going to win the entire SEC, that's, to me, that's probably I wouldn't say a guaranteed loss, but very likely a loss for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think even though Oklahoma beat Alabama last year, everybody understands there was just lightning in a bottle that night in Norman. Everything kind of came together. Everybody is approaching this game in Tuscaloosa with a little bit more respect, I think, of the Crimson Tide. But still, it's a Crimson Tide team that is figuring out its quarterback situation, like a lot of teams are. Who do you think of the teams that will be starting new quarterbacks in the SEC maybe has the most sure thing?
Well, first of all, I thought you were going to say Tuscaloosa, and I was like, man, you are fitting into the SEC so well right now. But, okay, first year starting quarterbacks that are going to hit. I mean, number one is John Mateer. I mean, I think that's the easy answer because he's in the same offensive system. Now, again, coming to a different level of competition, That's going to be tough. But I throw them into the mix. Arch Manning, of course, everybody's high on Arch. I don't think you're allowed to say you're overrated. They might throw me out of here. But I don't think he's going to win the Heisman or do anything crazy. I think Texas is mostly going to be defense and running the football this year.
As they should be.
And have Arch make a couple of big plays when they need him to. But I think they'd be foolish to rely on him to try to score 30, 40 touchdowns like some of these people would lead you to believe. I think that's crazy.
You made a good point there of John Mateer making the transition to the SEC from another conference. Some people are questioning the capabilities of that. Well, last year you had Diego Pavia do the exact same thing, coming from New Mexico with his offensive coordinator to Vanderbilt, and they showed a massive improvement in comparison. Do you think Oklahoma, with John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle together, have a similar chance of being able to, you expect him to make a big improvement, but can John Mateer be like a Diego Pavia was coming into the SEC last year?
Yeah, I mean, based on all the hype out of Norman, I mean, he's between Diego Pavia and Baker Mayfield, right? So he better, you know what I mean? So I don't know. That was Vanderbilt is... That's such a unique situation. I mean, they're like a laughingstock. Now here, Diego Pavia, I know, again, Arch Manning just took over, whatever. I think Diego Pavia was a bigger story than Arch Manning. Just the fact that Vanderbilt's not a laughingstock. He's out here talking trash to Hugh Freeze. He's out here talking trash to South Carolina. Like, my entire life, I've never seen a Vanderbilt team, player, anything talk trash, except for one time, I don't even remember dude's name. He went viral as a defensive lineman, called out Alabama. Alabama beat him like 63-0 the next week. So that was the one and only time until Diego Pavia. So can he be Diego Pavia? I think that's asking a little too much. But the beauty of Oklahoma, they don't need him to be. They're strong on defense. They're strong on special teams. They don't need a superhero like Vanderbilt needed in Diego Pavia.
In John Mateer, they've got a really, really good quarterback. But as you mentioned, they don't need him to be everything. What about the rest of the offense gives you confidence that this thing can bounce back in 2025?
I think the receivers, particularly Deion Burks. I was so excited to watch him last year. We just got a little taste, and then he got injured, unfortunately. Jaydn Ott, based on everybody I talked to that watches Cal, so watch out for this guy. I mean, he could be the best running back in the conference this year. So I don't know if I'd put him that high, based largely on the offensive line. I think the offensive line dictates more of who's going to be a successful running back than anything. Yeah. But Jaydn Ott, I mean, just across the board, they seem to be a lot stronger on offense. Again, it's going to come down to the offensive line.
That makes sense. So when you talk about that Oklahoma defense, efficiency-wise, it was rated in the top 15 in probably every single efficiency statistic, I guess you could say, that combines everything together. How does this Oklahoma defense sit for you? You said our defensive line is one of the best. You like them. What about when you move back into linebackers and secondary? Do you think that they'll see an improvement going into this year? I guess linebacker-wise it's tough because Danny Stutzman isn't here, but going back into the secondary, do you see them improving this year, especially having a competent offense?
Yeah, for sure, because I just have so much faith in Brent Venables. Mm-hmm. Now, I still question him, if I'm being truthful, as a head coach. I don't know if he's cut out to be an elite SEC head coach. I think he might be the best defensive coordinator in the country. So I just have extreme confidence in him and everything they're putting together. And we haven't even talked about Jim Nagy. I don't know how much of his impact will be year one, but for years and years to come, I literally don't think you could have hired a better GM than Jim Nagy.
Yeah, that was a really strong hire for Oklahoma. We've seen some of the semblances of the plan taking place. Jaydn Ott was a big pickup after Jim Nagy got here. If that hits, I think it'll give a lot of people a lot of confidence for what Nagy brings to the table. But what is it about Nagy specifically that stands out to you?
Just his wealth of experience and all the connections. And I'll tell you a funny story at SEC Media Days. It was a couple years ago. I was on Feinbaum's show, and I don't know if you guys remember Will Levis and all the hype he was getting at Kentucky. My God, he's going to be the number one pick. I went on Feinbaum and said, that's a joke. I guarantee you, he's not going to be a first round. He's not going to be the first overall pick. I said he's not going to be a first rounder, which turned out to be right. And then afterwards, Jim Nagy, I probably shouldn't say this, but he came up and said, we at the Senior Bowl 100% agree with you. So again, the guy goes against, he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. And he agreed with me that one time, so I'm a big
There you
fan.
go. Yeah, that's going to earn a little bit of brownie points. Hey, make sure you all go check out that SEC podcast with Michael Bratton and cousin Shane over there. Get yourself ready for the 2025 college football season. It's going to be a great year. It is so wide open. There is so many great games on the schedule this year, and it starts week 1 with some fantastic non-conference matchups. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thanks for having me,
Quick
guys.
question: which game are you most excited about in the
Let's hit
SEC?
that.
Oh, of all the SEC?
Which matchup?
I mean, Texas A&M, just because that game was robbed. I know we got it last year, but it was such a dud. That game sucked. I'm hoping this year is a little bit better.
Aggies always disappoint.
I know, but I'm picking them to go to the playoffs. So
Okay.
after saying that, your audience is probably like, well, everything this guy said is stupid. But that's probably number one for me. Another one that I'm really excited about is Florida at LSU, because I think that's going to dictate who's going to be really good this year, and I think the loser is probably going to fire their coach.
There you go.
That's good.
Again, check out that SEC podcast with Michael Bratton, cousin Shane, getting you ready for the 2025 SEC season. That'll do it for Locked On Sooners. That's Jay. I'm John. Catch you next time.